everyone. Thanks for joining me for Wow Me Wednesday. As you can see, I have a lovely guest with me today, Kate Trompetter, who is a facilitator and leadership training coach. Because we've all been in those meetings where it just feels like it's going off the rails, it's chaos, there's no agenda whatsoever. And so I feel like Kate's role as a facilitator is so key, and I figured she can help share some tips for you if you are facilitating meetings at work or maybe for a board that you're on. Why is it so important, Kate, that we learn meeting facilitation skills?
Well, I think just for the reason that you said, which is to have a meeting that's going off the rails is not productive for the time that you're together, nor is it in service to the work that you're trying to do. So often having an internal person who's skilled at facilitation, or even hiring a third-party facilitator, depending on the kind of conversation you're having, can yield much better results, higher impact. So I think it's important for people to pay attention to.
Yeah, actually be productive and have steps and action plans to walk away with,
yeah.
Right?
I mean, and our time is so valuable too. Like, how many of us waste a lot of time in meetings that are not facilitated well?
Oh yeah, you guys can relate to that, right?
Yeah.
So what are some tips that we can take with us today to help run our next meeting better?
Yeah, I think that the most important thing is about being prepared. So doing your work beforehand. I was telling you before we started this conversation, I'm facilitating a group of people in about 30 minutes and did not prepare for that meeting, and I'm feeling a little anxious and unorganized, and that is going to translate to this group when that time comes in just a little while. So preparing yourself by collecting any necessary data that you need from the folks that you're going to be with. Definitely putting an agenda together.
Mm-hmm.
I know that sometimes it just feels like a formality, but it's critical for you to, at the very least as a facilitator, know where it is that you're trying to get, and also the participants having a sense of what the container is that you're working within.
Right. What do you mean by data, collecting data for your meeting and the people that are going to be in the meeting?
Well, I think that that's it. You know, it's about aligning intention. So we need to know why we're in the room. So if you're being asked as a third party to facilitate, then there's questions to ask about why people feel like they need a facilitator. Mm-hmm. If this meeting went really well, what would the outcome look like? Mm-hmm. Getting that kind of information. How many people are going to be in the room? What the setup of the room is. Certainly if you're facilitating in a space where you need audiovisual equipment. I mean, it's anything from just logistics to getting a sense of, is there any energy I need to be aware of? Are people aligned with each other already, or is there divergence in the space? Like, what are all the elements that I feel like as a facilitator, whether I'm internal to the organization or group or a third party, that I might need to be aware of to make it as effective a period of time as possible?
That definitely makes sense. Everything goes back to what's in it for your audience, right? Whether it's meeting facilitation, presentations, on-camera pitches, it all comes back to what are they gonna get out of it?
Right. Yeah.
What other tips do you have to share?
I was thinking about how important it is to create what I call conscious relationships. So at the very beginning of a meeting, for the same reasons that an agenda is important, I think that creating or cultivating the conditions for people to make sure that our intentions are aligned, that we all know that why we're in the room. I'll very sarcastically sometimes say, so we're all here because we're going to be talking about fundraising and marketing today to make sure we have a strategic plan when we're done. Is everybody in the room for the right reason, or did you show up to the wrong meeting? But it is critical to create that kind of conscious relationship, which is also inclusive of what are we giving ourselves permission to do? Can I interrupt you, for example? Or is there any sort of like norms or like some people use talking sticks, for example? But making sure that all of us have an understanding of like what my role is, what the role is of the people in the room, so that nobody's surprised by either what we're talking about or the way that we behave and act amongst each other in a group.
Setting those expectations off the bat is important.
Yeah. I mean, I will often, like I brought up interrupting, I will often in the very beginning of my facilitated spaces, especially when I'm not internal to the organization, when I'm a third party coming from the outside, I will ask permission to interrupt people. Part of my role as a facilitator is to keep the meeting moving in the right direction, and to really be tending to the space, and that everybody gets an opportunity to talk and share their ideas and all those things. And sometimes, as many of us know, I think when you have somebody who has a strong personality and has a lot that they feel really passionately about and a lot to say, I would like to interrupt them, and I can redirect the meeting. But setting conscious relationship is about, at the very beginning, declaring, look, part of my role is to interrupt you. either to keep the meeting on track or in some instances to really anchor something that somebody has said that's really important. So interrupting is another thing that I would say is important, and that's part of setting those conditions at the very beginning to let people know that's something you're going to do.
Right. And that it's okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And they're not trying to be rude.
Yeah.
What is a good way to interrupt people without being rude? Are there some phrases that we can go to?
Absolutely. I feel like in my experience, I'll say things like, and I use my hands a lot when I talk. So, but I'll say, oh, let me just stop you right there for a second, especially if it's because they've said something that they're about to blow right past. That's really important to our understanding of why we're there, or something I really want to anchor. So I'll just say, like, you just said something really important, and I really want to anchor us in this moment. And if it's really because somebody is, just kind of going on and on, I really think it's okay as a facilitator to say, I'm going to stop you because I just want us to be aware of the time, or I'm going to stop you because I feel like we're moving on to another topic, and I just want to make sure that we're sticking with this, X, Y, and Z, whatever the thing is that we're supposed to be talking about. Interrupting does not have to be rude, especially when you can make it clear that you're doing it in service to the group or the outcome that everybody's hoping for.
Right. Another reason why you want to talk about the outcome and the alignment early on.
Yeah.
Right. Awesome. That's helpful. So I want to stop you, and then a phrase afterwards.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good to know.
And I also do a lot of expressing appreciation. So especially in those moments when I'm interrupting and things might feel a little tense for whatever reason, I can still express appreciation. Thank you so much for all the sharing that you've done and all the information you've provided. Now I'm going to move us on to this, any number of different things. Mm-hmm. So
some affirmation.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's important in any relationship. So,
yes.
And the last piece of advice I think I would give is about listening. But listening with like your whole body. I feel like my role as a facilitator in any space is to be listening certainly with my ears, which is what we're used to, right? I'm going to listen to what everybody's saying. I'm going to pay attention to moments when I need to interrupt people. I want to exercise a lot of curiosity. So even in the way I'm listening and then reflecting back and asking questions is about just collecting more data and really asking empowering questions and getting people to think and be curious themselves. But also listening with your eyes, which is about paying attention to whether somebody's checked out of the space, to whether or not somebody hasn't done any sharing at all, and if there's a moment for an invitation to bring their voice in. Mm-hmm. So really tending to the whole space. Are people on their cell phones? Is there anything that I need to be paying attention to that I can see? And really listening with your heart too. I think sometimes that when we're in spaces and people, especially when they're talking about really difficult things or where there's a lot of passion, there might be a question or something that's really wanting to be said, but that nobody's really giving voice to. So a role as a facilitator too is to like check that out with people and bring that up when maybe it feels like trusting your intuition as a facilitator.
Wow. So it's really focusing in on paying attention to multi-senses.
Absolutely.
The head and the heart. Mm-hmm. And what do you do then when you do notice that someone's distracted or not all there? Is there a way to not be like a parent or a teacher and stare them down or walk over to them? Yeah. And
Jessica, is there something you'd like to share with the group? Right. I absolutely think that, so I'll take it back first to setting conscious or developing conscious relationship. One of the things I often say in the beginning of my meetings is that I get that it's, a long time for us to be together, for example, and you may get tired. I'm going to trust that that's not because I'm a bad facilitator, but rather you just didn't get a lot of sleep last night because you were so excited about the time we were going to be spending together today. But I encourage people in the middle of what we're doing, if you need to stand up or if you need to take a break, one of the agreements we can have is to trust each other that we're handling our business, and that if you need to step out for some reason or stand up and stretch because you're tired, then that's what you need to do. So I try to handle that at the very beginning, but I also have no shame in stopping in the middle of a process and saying, let's get up and stretch, or just deciding there needs to be a break, even if one wasn't planned. But you have to pay attention to the whole space. And generally it's a rule for me. I don't like to call people out in the middle of a meeting. I think that's one of the fastest way to, for trust,
right,
to really go away. And it's really important that the people in the room trust you as a facilitator to hold that space for them.
Yeah. Really, really good points. And believe me, Kate knows what she's doing. I've been in many meetings with her, and I feel like we always have very smooth and engaging meetings, also with outcomes and results and clear plans of action to leave with. So if you are interested in learning more, if you need a facilitator or you want to learn more about facilitating, talk to this girl here. You can contact her at
ktrompetter@gmail.com.
ktrompetter@gmail.com in case you want more tips specifically about meeting facilitation. Thank you so much. And if you want to contact me, please keep in touch. Just comment below. Talk about your experiences facilitating meetings, or maybe meetings that you've been in that went really bad or really great. We want to hear about your examples. And you can always check out my website at jessicachangconsulting.com to reach out to me and check out my other video tips. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.